Africa is rising up against neocolonialism, and France is losing its grip on the region. We're talking about West Africa over here. So over the past 2 years, there have been coups in the Western African nations of Mali, of Burkina Faso, of Niger, and Gabon. These coups have ousted pro-France governments that were de facto French puppets, and they have brought in military rule that seeks genuine independence from France. Now, the power vacuum these coups have created is in the process of being filled by other parties. Could Russia be involved? Could China be involved? Are we witnessing the beginning of a new round of proxy conflicts in Africa? And are we once again going to have the situation where whoever wins, it's the people of Africa that lose? Please subscribe and let's examine what's actually happening out there. This video is sponsored by Atha Energy. Here is their stock ticker on the screen. It's SASKF. So let's first see how France still rules and controls Africa. It's a process that's going on until now. Things are now changing, but they still, until now, have been ruling and controlling Africa. So colonization may seem like a thing of the past, something that belongs to the 19th century, a relic of the 19th century scramble for Africa. But that's not quite the case. France still controls large parts of Western Africa, and it has several instruments via which it does this. One of these is the CFA franc. CFA stands for Colonie Française d'Afrique, which means Africa's French colonies. And this currency comes in two flavors. The West African CFA franc, which is used in 8 countries: Benin, Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Niger, Senegal, and Togo. And there's the Central African CFA franc, which is used in 6 countries: Cameroon, the Central African Republic, Chad, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, and the Republic of Congo. These 14 countries together have a combined population of over 190 million people and a combined GDP of over $280 billion. Both flavors of the CFA franc have a fixed exchange rate with the euro. So 1 euro is equal to roughly 656 CFA francs. And member countries, interestingly, are required to deposit half of their foreign exchange reserves with the French treasury in exchange for a French guarantee of unlimited convertibility of CFA francs into euros. So this restricts the sovereignty of the African member states. It effectively puts their monetary policy in the hands of France and the European Central Bank. And to uphold the CFA franc, France has never hesitated to, let's say, eliminate heads of state in Africa who have wanted to withdraw from the system. Most of these were, let's say, removed from office in favor of more compliant, more pliable leaders who were willing to do anything to cling to power, come hell or high water. So it's clear that economic development is impossible in such circumstances, and the creation of a political system that meets the needs, the requirements, the aspirations of the majority of the citizens of these countries is also impossible. This is colonization. This is neocolonization. It's ruled by proxy. So the CFA franc is one instrument that the French have to control this region. Another is ECOWAS, which is a political and economic grouping of 15 countries. The economic community of West African states, and the nations are Benin, Burkina Faso, Cabo Verde, Côte d'Ivoire, Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mali, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, and Togo. So ECOWAS has a long history of military interventions. It intervened in Liberia in the Liberian Civil War in 1990, the one that brought Charles Taylor to power. It intervened in Sierra Leone in 1997. It intervened in Guinea-Bissau in 1999, in Côte d'Ivoire in 2003 when it assisted French troops. In Liberia in 2003, the Second Liberian Civil War that removed Charles Taylor from power. It intervened in Mali in 2013. It intervened militarily in Gambia in 2017, Operation Restore Democracy, and so on and so forth. The French also have a lengthy history of military intervention in the region. Just 2 examples: Libya 2011, massive intervention by the French Air Force, Navy, both were involved. And this 2013 Mali, the French contributed roughly 5,000 troops to a multinational intervention force. The stated objective was to stabilize Mali, but the real objective was to secure access to neighboring Niger's uranium basin. Why, do you ask? It's because nuclear power plants account for about 68% of France's annual electricity generation, which is the highest nuclear generation share in the world. Niger's uranium powers 3/4 of France's homes. So Niger is the world's seventh largest uranium producer, and it's the second largest supplier to the EU when it comes to uranium. How is France losing its grip on this region on Western Africa? Why is France losing its grip on this region? And as France loses its grip on Western Africa, who gains from it? Before we go to that, let's take a look at today's sponsor, which is directly tied to the soaring global demand for uranium. So the company that's the sponsor of this video is a uranium production company in Canada called Atha Energy. Here is their stock ticker on your screen. It's SASKF. So uranium is in an incredible bull market right now. This started just after the 2016 US election, which brought President Trump to power. Uranium has more than quadrupled in price ever since, and the price appreciation is incredible. Here's the geopolitical background. The US is the largest consumer of nuclear energy in the world. Half of the uranium the US produces for civilian purposes comes from Russia, and more comes from Kazakhstan. The US is now banning uranium imports from Russia. I think you can understand why, right? And most Americans, the climate is quite good. Most Americans support nuclear energy for electricity. Elon Musk, the world's richest man, supports nuclear energy. Microsoft wants to use nuclear energy. Uranium has support both from Republican and Democratic voters. So an alternative is urgently needed, an alternative to Russia, and it's actually right next door in Canada. So the Athabasca Basin in Canada is called the Saudi Arabia of uranium. It produces the highest grade uranium in the world with about 20 times the average international purity. It's better than Russia, better than Australia, better than Kazakhstan, and so on and so forth. The Athabasca Basin, therefore, is a critical jurisdiction for the Western countries. And Atha Energy, the company that's today's sponsor, they are drilling in the best uranium jurisdiction in the world right now. This is the Athabasca Basin in Canada. So Atha Energy has by far the largest land package in the Athabasca Basin. They have 3.4 million acres of land across 4 exploration districts. There is no other company in the Athabasca Basin that has nearly as much land as this company, and they have a massive cash position with $33 million Canadian in the bank. 36% of the ownership is by the board management and insiders. 2 people, Matthew Mason and Timothy Young, control together 30%. They are the largest shareholders of this company. So this is the Athabasca Basin on the map on your screen right now. All of the green areas are owned by Atha Energy. They have land positions next to every major operating mine, next to every high-grade discovery, and next to all the greatest and best-known deposits in the Athabasca Basin. On top of that, Atha Energy has a 10% carried interest in NextGen Energy, which is a company that's doing extremely well. They're trading close to their all-time high as of the recording of this video. They have also another 10% carried interest in ISO Energy. ISO Energy is another company that's doing extremely well. The management team at Atha is unbelievable. Atha Energy is the largest landowner in the Athabasca Basin. They haven't even started exploring yet. The upside potential is immense. So take what I'm showing you here, check this company out, do your own research, do your own due diligence on this company, on this stock. It's Atha Energy. Here is the ticker once again on your screen. It's SASKF. You have an opportunity with this company to be part of the largest property holder in the Athabasca Basin. I'm giving you the info so you can check it out for yourself. There's more links and details in the description. Once again, do your own research, do your own due diligence. So, why is France losing its grip, and how is France losing its grip? So let's take a look at the chronology. In 2021, there was a coup in Mali. A military officer named Colonel Assimi Goïta came to power in a coup d'etat in Mali, and this resulted in the expulsion of French forces from Mali. In September 2022, there was a coup in Burkina Faso, and Ibrahim Traoré, a military officer, became the interim president of Burkina Faso. In July this year, 2023, there was a coup in Niger, and as a consequence of that, France kind of lost its hold on the nation and its huge reserves of uranium. And because of this, ECOWAS threatened the coup leaders, and they asked them to roll back the coup and so on and so forth. Did not happen. The lady, what's her name? Victoria Nuland visited Niger in August 2023. She is with the State Department of the US. Uh, but her pressure also didn't work. Coup leaders rejected calls to restore democracy and they blocked her from meeting Mohamed Bazoum, the ousted leader who is currently under house arrest. So, whenever Miss Newland visits your country, it's pretty certain that you're going to have a war very soon. So, that's what happened in August 23. She visited, but she did not get what she wanted. In late September 23, this year itself, on the 7th of September, there was a failed counter coup in Niger. They tried to oust the coup leaders. Did not happen. It failed. And around the same time, late September this year, the French ambassador was expelled. He was ejected from Niger. So the coup leaders have withstood diplomatic pressure and threats from ECOWAS and the United States and other powers. So that's what happened in Niger. Then in August 23, tracking back a little, there was a coup in Gabon as well. So all of these are anti-colonial coups. All of these are anti-France coups. There's a large amount of support that these coups have from the populace, from the population. The people want these coups to happen and they want the French to be ousted and they want to be more independent. That's the situation that's going on in all these nations in Western Africa. Coming back to Niger, why is Niger important? It's because of the uranium, obviously, and it's also because Niger is an important oil and gas transshipment route. So there's a proposed Nigeria, Algeria, Europe gas pipeline, the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline that's proposed right now. And this would in the future pass through Niger. So Niger could be the host of this overland gas pipeline that transports Nigerian gas into Algeria, from which it will be piped into Europe. And once construction begins on this pipeline, this project could be operational in as little as 3 to 5 years. And we know that Europe is desperate for energy, especially after the Nord Stream sabotage. So that's another reason why Niger is so important as a transshipment route for all of this gas. And now that it's no longer under French control, that could be a problem. And there's also it's been reported, it's not been confirmed, but it's been reported that Niger reportedly it hiked uranium prices from 0.8 euros per kilogram to 200 euros per kilogram. So that would be a major blow for France, which was getting all this nice uranium for incredibly low prices, 0.8 euros per kilogram. Now it's 200 euros per kilogram. So that's a report which has come out in the open, but it's not quite been confirmed. But that also is a possibility. So that is how France is losing its grip. That's the process. That's the chronology of how it's been happening. And it could, happen more in the future. That's how France has been losing its grip. But the question is why? Why is France losing its grip? France is a major military power. It's an Indian Ocean power. Okay, it has strategic ambitions and interests across the Indo-Pacific and also in Western Africa. It's a powerful military nation, right? So why has France not exercised the military option? Why has it not sent a military force to Niger to undo the coup? Why has it not had ECOWAS do the work for it? None of that has happened. It's just been sitting and doing nothing. So let's understand why. So France does not defer to any of the African countries. Those are too weak and insignificant for them to pressurize France. France doesn't defer to Russia because it has the US and NATO on its side. France doesn't defer to China because once again it has the US and NATO on its side. So whether it's African nations, whether it's Russia, whether it's China, they cannot pressurize France. They can't stop France from exercising the military operation in Western Africa. There's only one nation in the entire world that France defers to, and that is the United States of America. So it looks like there's something going on behind the scenes, and the US seems to be the nation that's pressurizing France and preventing France from, pursuing its national interests to the detriment of the African people. Something's happening. Now, it's not like the US is all of a sudden, concerned about the rights and aspirations of the African people, the people of West Africa. It's not quite the case. What exactly is happening? And to understand that, we have to ask ourselves, as France loses its grip on this region, who gains from this? Who benefits from this? So first of all, if France loses control of Niger, like it already has, then the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline doesn't happen. Now, understand that the US is currently selling LNG, liquefied natural gas, to Europe at 3 times the price the Europeans were paying to Russia. And because of this, there's been this entire deindustrialization process that's kind of taken off in Europe, right? If you want to deindustrialize a region, all you have to do is to starve it of cheap energy. And the Nord Stream 2 sabotage and the cutting off of the Russian gas inflow into Europe has done this, and now they're forced to buy the same gas from the US at 3 times the price. So we are witnessing a process of the deindustrialization of Europe, and Germany is the powerhouse. It's the engine that drives the European economy, and France to some extent. So we are witnessing recession in Germany. There's recession in parts of Europe, in EU and so on. And the US benefits from this because it can tighten its hold and its grip on Europe by doing so. So that's one actor, a major actor that benefits from France losing its grip on Western Africa. Then there's the Russia factor. And with Russia comes Wagner. So Wagner, as we know, it's a mercenary force, a paramilitary force, you can call it whatever you want. It's Russia's anti-imperial alternative in Africa. And the Africans find it kind of attractive. They find Russia kind of attractive because Russia lacks France's colonial track record in Africa. Not elsewhere, but in Africa. Okay? So Wagner operates autonomously. Wagner is a mercenary paramilitary force. It acts in Russia's national interest, and it gives Kremlin the option of plausible deniability. And this is especially true after the fake coup that gave the world the impression that Wagner was not in Putin's control and so on, but we know it was a fake coup. So Wagner is an indispensable component of Russia's foreign policy. It's one of Russia's sharp edges. Russia may be more in control of Wagner after the supposed death of Mr. Yevgeny Prigozhin and so on. And Wagner has at least 5,000 troops in Africa. That's the reports that one sees. They may have more, right? The number may have increased. About 1,400 Wagner troops support the Mali government, which, as we know, is anti-France and anti-West. They provide soldiers, they provide site security, they provide aircraft, defense equipment, radars, and so on. They provide lawyers and engineers and geologists and scientists and so on to the government, right? Wagner also works for Burkina Faso. The interim president Ibrahim Traore is in power over there. So Wagner provides various kinds of support to his government, right? Whatever will keep them in power and sustain them. Wagner is also working towards overthrowing the government of General Mahamat Idriss Déby in Chad by supporting the FACT rebel group led by Mahamat Mahdi Ali. In Sudan, Wagner personnel oversee gold mining in the Central African Republic. Wagner has been involved in the civil war since 2021, and their goal is to secure gold mines and to suppress the local resistance. In Libya, there's about 2,000 Wagner personnel who are supporting anti-government rebels. As we know, the government, as I hope you know, the government in Libya is installed and supported by the West and by Turkey. And Libya is a failed state. There are open-air slave markets. There's complete chaos. It's not a good place to be in, but that's the deal. Libya is an OPEC country. It produces over 1 million barrels of oil per day, most of which goes to Europe. So Wagner is involved in supporting anti-government rebels in Libya. Wagner may also be making inroads into the Democratic Republic of Congo. Wagner's boss, the late boss, Mr. Prigozhin, was involved in the Russia-Africa summit earlier this year in St. Petersburg, late July this year. He was apparently one of the organizers of this summit. So overall, when it comes to Russia, Wagner is involved. They are helping the government in Mali. They're helping the government in Burkina Faso, in the Central African Republic. They are helping rebels in Chad and in Sudan. They're clamping down on oil exports to Europe in Libya. They're involved in various ways in the Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, in Guinea, in Senegal, in Libya, in South Sudan. They have at least 5,000 troops across Africa. The number may be growing. The Russians are, through Wagner, via Wagner, creating a confederation of African states that are favorably inclined towards Russia, stretching from Guinea to Eritrea, with Chad as the central hub. And they have claimed credit for various coups in Africa, including the one in Niger. So these coups that we are witnessing since 2021, or even before that, could possibly be Russian-mediated coups. But these coups are also about breaking free from Western and French neo-colonialism. And is there a China angle here? Is China involved? Typically when the Russians are involved, the Chinese aren't too far behind, because the Chinese and the Russians are currently in this phase of cooperating with each other, which is something that started after the Ukraine conflict. So the Chinese may definitely be involved. They have lots of interests in Africa, primarily about extracting natural resources out of Africa. So that is the deal. France is backsliding. France is losing its grip on Western Africa. Russia is in the fray in a big way. The Chinese may be piggybacking on Russia and on Wagner. The USA, the United States, is always in the mix. They are never far behind. They're always somewhere in the scene. So the new Cold War is coming to Africa. The prospect of multiple proxy conflicts is very much real, and there seems to be no respite for the poor people of Western Africa and of Africa as a whole. No matter who wins, they are the ones who seem to keep on losing. It's a sad situation, but that's where we are right now. I hope things change for the better for the people of this region, but that's where we are right now. And we're going to keep a close eye on the developments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.